Alright, so I decided to do this video after watching Gage's video on this topic, and after watching Gage's video, my blood was boiling when I heard about this case, and especially when I pulled up this article that I have pulled up right here and read about it. This just absolutely infuriates me, and I was going to do a video about it yesterday, but I decided that I should probably calm down first a little bit, because if I had done it yesterday, it probably would have been a lot. It would probably just have been me yelling and being a lot more belligerent than I will be in this video. But before I get to that, like I said, I have this article pulled up here, and I'll try to link this below. And I also linked Gage's video in a community post on my channel, so if you haven't watched Gage's video, go watch his video on this topic. But, so basically, this woman in Minnesota, her name being Julissa Taylor. So she was awarded custody of her son after a big custody battle and between her and the father. And she was awarded custody, ultimately. And then 10 days later, she ended up murdering her own son. Yeah. So that's kind of the gist of it, but I will read through this article and give you guys a little bit more information on this, just as context. So this is from CBSNews.com. A Minnesota woman who asked a store clerk for ammunition that would blow the biggest hole was found guilty Wednesday of fatally shooting her 6-year-old son just 10 days after regaining full custody of him, in a case that raised questions about the conduct of child welfare workers. So, you know, it's no surprise that child welfare workers or CPS and stuff, I mean, there's so many cases where the kid is clearly, where the kid involved is clearly being abused or neglected, and CPS or any of these other social services don't do shit until it's too late. So, you know, it sucks that shit like this has to happen this extreme for people to, for people to start questioning the effectiveness of these services that are meant to protect children and get them out of potentially abusive and harmful homes. Jurors in Hennepin County District Court deliberated for less than 2 hours before finding Julissa Taylor, a 29-year-old Spring Park woman with a history of mental illness and drug abuse, guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Eli Hart. The charge carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison. Sentencing is scheduled for February 16th. Investigators said Eli was shot inside his mother's car at a parking lot at Lake Minnetonka Regional Park in Minnetrista. Police found the body in the trunk May 20th after pulling her over for a traffic violation. During closing arguments, and this is the part that I sent this article to one of my friends because I just wanted to show him like the utter bullshit that this was, and he sent a screenshot of this part of the article, and this is crazy. Defense lawyer Brian Leary said she participated in the boy's death but was not the one who shot him. He said no eyewitnesses, photos, or videos connected her to the killing, the Minneapolis Star-Tribune reported. Okay, here's the great part. Quote, "She's not charged with the crime they have proved," Leary said. "She destroyed evidence, lied to police, ran away, but they have not proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the gun was in her hands when it was fired 9 times into her son." Well, she got rid of evidence. Not only did she lie to police, but she got rid of evidence, and she, ran, and, surely she's not the, just the one who actually also just killed her son, surely not, And, look, I get that he's a defense lawyer, and he's just doing his job, but, that is such bullshit to me. That is, talking about grasping at straws. That is such shit. Taylor did not testify, and her defense called no witnesses. Assistant Hennepin County Attorney Dan Allard said overwhelming evidence, including cell phone data linking her to all the sites involved in the death, showed Taylor killed her son, either for life insurance money, because of her mental health, or after the stress of a custody battle with the boy's father. because, you know, having mental health problems or, you know, being under a lot of stress is justification for killing your own kid, you know. Just to be clear, that's no justification. I get that they're trying to maybe find reasons, but it really shouldn't be a reason because it shouldn't be a reason. That's no excuse. He noted that the boy's DNA was found in Taylor's hair and on her skin and clothes. If she didn't shoot him, Allard said, why didn't she tell police when pulled over, oh my God, someone shot my son, he's in the trunk? Her ex-boyfriend, Torrey Hart, a bait-and-tackle shop manager from Cheddick, Wisconsin, has filed a lawsuit alleging that child welfare workers ignored warning signs before his son's death. He had filed a petition seeking custody shortly after the killing and at trial told jurors his son was everything to me. Hart's lawsuit and other documents obtained by the Star Tribune spell out a string of issues. Among other things, police responded to Taylor's Farmington home 21 times in 10 months, and she was arrested for stealing drugs from a health clinic and had to find a new drug testing facility because of bizarre behavior. Taylor lost custody of Eli twice, first in October 2020 and then for most of 2021. Robert, I can't pronounce that last name, I'm not even going to try, but Robert, another ex-boyfriend of Taylor, testified at trial that she and Eli had an argument the night before he died because he didn't want to go to bed. She left the apartment and put a recently purchased shotgun in the car, grabbed her son, and went downstairs, he said. Robert, who was not charged, said he fell asleep and asked where she had gone when he woke up the next morning. She was kind of like, I had to go do something, Robert said. Later that day, Taylor was stopped while driving with one tire completely gone, the rim scraping the road and the back windshield blown out. And then it kind of just goes over, you know, what... But yeah. A judge determined that Taylor was mentally competent to stand trial and can assist with her own defense. She was offered a plea deal soon after, but rejected the offer to plead guilty to the second-degree murder charge and serve 40 years in prison. In Minnesota, it's a formality that if you're found guilty of first-degree murder, you spend the rest of your life in prison without parole. And yeah, I agree with that. You know, I think that people who are convicted of crimes like this, who kill in cold blood, especially one as egregious as this, like a parent killing their own kid, there should be no parole. There should be no chance of life outside of prison for them at all, ever again. You know, some people might be like, well, what about the rehabilitation? What about rehabilitating people? For crimes like this, rehabilitation doesn't matter. That's not even the point. The point is to, you know, hand down a sufficient punishment for the crime committed. You know, that's why we put people in prison in the first place. You know, people can talk about rehabilitation all day long, but ultimately we take these people off the streets and put them in prison because they are a danger to others, and also, again, because, you know, to hold these people accountable and as punishment. That's the main reason. CBS Minnesota reported that Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty released a statement soon after the verdict was announced, saying in part, Eli's brutal murder is one of the most horrific cases I have encountered in 30 years working in the criminal legal system. Nothing will ever fill the emptiness Eli's father and other loved ones now live with every day, but I'm hopeful this verdict will make it just a bit easier to remember Eli as the toothless, happy, smiling little boy we have seen in photos. And that's the end of that, but yeah. So, you know, the thing that's just very upsetting is that the father was mentioned here. Now, apparently the father wasn't necessarily perfect himself, but apparently he had actually cleaned himself up and had gotten better in order to attempt to get his son back, to, you know, bring him back into a better environment, you know. And, you know, the custody battle happened, and even though the mother had a history of many, many issues and was, you know, clearly was unstable, she was still awarded custody of Eli. And, you know, then what happened just 10 days later. Now, Gage made a good point. He said that whoever the judge that decided to do this should also be prosecuted for, like, negligence. And I agree. I agree 100%. The judge who made this decision is a fucking idiot, a fucking moron, And I absolutely believe they should be held accountable, because if they had not made the decision to let Eli go with his biological mother, who was clearly unfit, Eli would still be alive today, and this never would have happened. And you know, I also left this comment on Gage's video, and you know, I think this should serve as, you know, a reminder that when it comes to family courts, divorce courts, whatever you want to call them, there is a massive bias. You know, the divorce courts and family courts are infamously biased in favor of the mother, and they are biased against the fathers. I have heard of so many cases like this, not with the kid being killed necessarily, not to this extreme, but where, you know, even if it's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that the mother is unfit to be the one with sole custody of the children, and the father would clearly be a better, you know, is the far better parental figure to take custody of the children, or child in cases like this. Even with that, like, courts will still rule in favor of the mother and give the children to the mother. There's a clear fucking bias, and it needs to be addressed more, like far more than it is. Like, even the most hardcore, like, fucking feminist would have to admit that, yeah, you know, the family courts, the father does kind of get fucked over. So it's bullshit. And it's just, I can't imagine the amount of anguish and pain and grief and suffering and anger that the father has over the death of his own son. He was fighting to get him back, and then this happened. I can't imagine, you know, the father and, you know, Eli's family, the rest of his loved ones. This is fucking terrible. Now, Gage showed this clip in his video, and like I said, you should go check out Gage's video. But she apparently made a closing statement or something, or she, you know, whatever. And she was calling every one of, you know, the people who were prosecuting her and stuff. She was like, oh, you're all, I forget the word she said. She said, you're all trash or garbage or something or whatever. And you know what? You know, I don't condone violence. You know, I don't condone violence. I don't condone violence against anyone. But if someone had just completely lost it, like let's say a loved one of Eli's just fucking lost it and just went and fucking just gave her the old 1-2, just fucking right there, just rocked her completely after she said that, I would completely understand. I mean, the audacity to call the people that are holding you accountable garbage when you're the fucking bitch that murdered her own fucking son in a horrific manner. Fuck you. Fuck you. If a hell does exist, you are for sure going to be burning in it for all eternity. Fuck you. Fuck this bitch. And she shouldn't get parole, which I believe is that's what she was convicted of first-degree murder, so it should be life without parole, which is what she deserves. In fact, it's more than what she deserves. You know, I'm not necessarily in favor of the death penalty because I don't believe in giving the state or the government that much power, especially when it comes to who gets to live and stuff. You know, I've always been very on the fence about the death penalty, but in cases like this, it really, really makes me reconsider that position. Like, there are some cases that are so egregious that sometimes I reconsider, maybe would make an exception. But I mean, just absolutely, absolutely disgusting. And yeah, I mean, and there was something else. There was another point that I wanted to make, but it's slipping right now. But anyways, you know, that was this. And, you know, I would say I hope they throw the book at her, but they already did. Again, she was convicted of first-degree murder, so. But I guess that's pretty much it for this one. You know, oh, I remember now, because I talked about how there were many cases like that I know of this, that that are like this. I wanted to bring up an anecdote. It involves one of my best friends. So his parents got divorced at a very, when he was very, very young, like at a very young age. And, you know, his mother got custody of him and his sister, technically half-sister, but, you know. And the thing about my best friend's mom is that she's not a good person. Like, she's an alcoholic, she's a manipulator, I mean, she's a sociopath, she's a bunch of different things, and just not a good person. And she was awarded custody of my best friend. And in the last, you know, the last 5-6 years or so, he's been remembering things that he kind of like subconsciously blocked out. But, you know, he remembered times where she would like put him in the corner for hours and hours and hours and would neglect him and stuff. And, you know, luckily, finally, after a bit, his father was finally able to get custody of him. Although he tried to get custody of his sister too, because even though she technically wasn't his own daughter, you know, she was like a daughter to him. I won't go into specifics, but let's just say that my best friend's mom, she made up a very, very egregious lie about, you know, my friend's dad. And, you know, he almost got into trouble. The only reason that he didn't was because, you know, his mom couldn't keep her story straight. Like, she kept changing the story, she kept changing details, and she couldn't keep a straight story. And so, luckily, my friend's dad didn't get in trouble, but he still wasn't able to get custody of my friend's sister. And as a result, I mean, she turned out to be the way she is, and she's also not a good person. I won't get into that, but, you know, I know it's an anecdote, but there are many, many other cases and situations like that. That, again, it just shows the clear bias in the family court system. And, you know, call me whatever the fuck you want. If you want to say this is a MGTOW talking point or whatever, I don't really give a shit. Like, I think I've heard, like, even feminists I've heard say that this is a problem. Because there is, like, fathers get fucked over in these courts. Especially, like, I know here in the state of Massachusetts, I was talking to a ex-coworker. She doesn't work with me anymore, but we were talking about this, and, I mean, she's quite, you know, quite left-wing, but, like, even she was saying, you know, fathers get fucked in this state in divorce courts. Like, no matter what, the mother will get custody. You know, no matter what. So, you know, I think it should go to show that when it comes to situations like this where kids are being neglected, and multiple people are coming forward about the fact that the kid is being neglected, it needs to be actually taken a lot more seriously than it is. Excuse me. I think the whole family court system needs to be just overhauled and reevaluated. I think the way that kids are treated, just in general, is just abhorrent. I think it should be up to the child to decide which parent they want to live with, ultimately. But we treat them like possessions, and it's really, really just fucked. So, yeah, not only that, excuse me, I can't even talk today. It should raise awareness about things like CPS and all these other services. Because in this article it said, oh, it's raised concerns about, you know, child services and stuff, but this is not new at all. Like, you know, there have been countless times where child services haven't done shit to remedy the situation, haven't done shit to help. Even though there were many warning signs, many people, you know, witnessing the neglect or abuse or both, and nothing was done about it. That and the bias that is in family courts, that, you know, the bias that clearly favors the mothers and is against the fathers. So, but I think that's all I have to say on this one. So, you know, I managed to stay more calm, you know, for this. But, yeah, I mean, I guess let me know what you guys think about this. Yeah, so that's it for this one. You know, my condolences go out to the father and the family of Eli. This is awful. So, you guys have a good one.